Greetings one and all, my name is Lancer and welcome to the Winter 2023 Binge Cap. Now, what is a binge cap? For those who are new to the channel. Binge caps are pretty much me explaining and talking about the anime that came out in the season and what I chose to watch pretty much and what I recommend and what I think about. Because I'm gonna be honest, most of my reviews are usually about praising pretty good shows, but with the binge caps, it's sort of my opportunity to be able to give a variety of opinion on different shows and really just talk about just what I thought of the anime season overall. And of course, disclaimer, I did not watch everything in the anime season, but I did cover at least a lot of the more popular ones. So I say without further ado, let's get right into some of the shows. Now, I do like to go in order of least to most favorite for the season, and safe to say there is a wide variety to talk about today. So let's get started with some of these. I think the best place to start is definitely the most infamous show that came out this season. That is, of course, My Life as what the fuck is the English title? My Life as Inukai-sans Dog. Now, when I first saw the trailer for this show, I was like, an interesting spin on the isekai genre, I guess? How quickly I was proven wrong, my sweet innocent mind. See, because I had no idea going into it that, I mean, of course, I always go into the mindset that it's going to be lewd, but this was much worse than that. This wasn't even like borderline hentai. This was hentai, just without the sex. I knew something was wrong right when I clicked on the episode, and it showed that it was only 11 minutes long. That, of course, set off my red flag of, oh, this is one of those. And also the fact that there was the regular version, and right next to it, the uncensored version. Alright, boys. We got ourselves a treat. The basic plot of this show, if you could even call it plot, is pretty much this kid all of a sudden wakes up one day and realizes he's been turned into a dog. And he gets picked up by this girl, who was a girl in his class, and she falls in love with him as a dog and proceeds to do many things that you never would guess someone would do to a dog. I'm really curious. I have like the Mao lists for each of these shows pulled up. There's 86,000 members for this. I love that the average score is a 5. That's one of the lowest I've seen in a long time. Also, the fact that she names the dog Pochita. This does not help that this came out like immediately after Chainsaw Man finished. Like, what am I supposed to say about this show? I mean, I know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say what my ranking is. And well, I don't think numbers can feasibly quantify what I feel about this show. So instead of giving it a number, I'm just going to say that My Life as Inukai-sans Dog is dog shit. Anyway, moving on from that quickly. Now we're going to go into more of some of the boring ones of the season for me. And I'll go to this one. The English title being Endo and Kobayashi Live, the latest tsundere villainess Lizelette. Be honest about this one, I gave up on it about halfway through. It hooked me pretty quickly because it was an interesting... I'm a basic bitch. If it has an interesting concept, chances are it'll hook me pretty quickly. It's these two characters who love this like RPG light novel kind of game, and one day when they're playing it, they suddenly realize that they're able to live commentate and talk to some of the characters in the game, which the characters in the game are just like, God? So then that makes them realize, oh, we could change the ending of the game, because the ending of the game, like, this girl ends up dying and whatnot, and it's really sad. It's like, oh, we could change the ending. So for the first couple episodes, I was pretty into it. I mean, again, I do have to kind of specify a thing. I absolutely think that it's a lot easier to watch a show week to week, like as it's coming out. Because with this one, obviously, it was easier to watch week to week because it was just, all right, 20 minutes, boom, done. But as the weeks went by and I kept forgetting about it and episodes started stacking up, I was just like, I don't give that much of a shit about it to keep watching it. It's a typical fairy tale, whatever type show. Like, it's gonna end with a happy ending and whatever. Like, I don't. This one I gave, yeah, an actual number score. Pretty much smack bang in the middle, 5 out of 10. 10. It's nothing special, it's not absolute dog shit, like I'm sure someone can find some enjoyment in it. I just personally did not. I did like it, it's just I stopped watching it and then just didn't give a shit to continue watching it. Even though the main character is a tsundere, it's the first word in the title. Like, yeah, she's cute and whatnot, but it's sort of like the same jokes over and over again and whatnot, and gags and romance. Again, interesting concept, just kind of a whatever show. Alright, this one's one I did enjoy. It's just weird. Kubo won't let me be invisible. Like, it's funny, right as I started really getting into this show, it just suddenly went on hiatus. I get it's continuing in like a couple weeks or so, which is really weird. Again, I don't know the full thing behind that, and I don't really give a shit to look it up. Yeah, it's like it got halfway through its first season and then just went on hiatus for a while. Like episode 5, 6 is just when I was like, all right, I'm really starting to get into the flow of this. I like it. And then it just stopped. The best way I can describe this show, it's like ASMR with anime. Every character in the show talks at this level, and just every time they're talking, just like, hi, how was your day today? It's really weird. And the art style, it's kind of like the new age clan ad. Like there's many shots of the main girl where I see her and I'm just like, oh, like it's definitely a unique style and it's cute, but I don't know, just something about the way that the eyes are. I think it's the fact that they all look like tired eyes, even though they're not tired. But story-wise, it pretty much is just like you're following this kid who pretty much is invisible to the world. Like he's that irrelevant that people will literally walk by him, not even realize it. He'll talk, no one will hear him, except for this main girl, Kubo, is the only one who can consistently see him and knows where he is. And it's just like a cute little romance story. And that's really all that there is to it. It's like a cute little romance story. And honestly, like 6 episodes, even though there's gonna be the rest of it, I didn't feel like I was missing it for the next couple weeks, mainly because I had other stuff, but it was still constantly just in my mind, just like, oh, I need to watch that, I need to watch that. That's like, oh yeah, shit, it's on hiatus. When we come back for the spring 2023 season, I'll probably cover the rest of the season. Or if it's not anything special, I probably won't. Who knows? See you in 12 weeks. Overall, the first half, what would I give it? I mean, I only barely started actually getting into it once it finally finished, so I'd give it 6 out of 10. Okay, now let's get into some of the more juicy ones of the season. Some of the ones I absolutely enjoyed the most. The Ice Guy and his cool female colleague. Now, if you saw my dub reaction video that came out a couple weeks ago, I talked about this one a little bit. Basic story of this one, it's a group of co-workers working in an office, and it's just the antics that they get up to. And just the 2 main characters you follow are Fuyutsuki, the main girl, and Himuro, the main guy. And the interesting, quirky thing about this series is that the characters, the people in them, are like descendants of like different mythological creatures and whatnot. Like the main guy is the descendant of a snow woman, so like he's portrayed with like a lot of snow with his emotions. It's a girl who's a descendant of a fox, a guy who's a descendant of a phoenix, the guy who's literally Buddha. And it's just a pretty nice, wholesome story. I'd say out of like the new romance stories I've watched this season, this one was probably my favorite, just because like the cute quirky ways like each of the people are portrayed in like showing their emotion. Like whenever Himuro gets blushed or really happy, like he'll cause a blizzard, like that's the constant joke. And just seeing like the different relationships being formed through the different office goers and workers that we follow, and it's pretty nice. Like, the art style is really good. Just the one gripe I have, though, the eyes. And it's not like a clan ad gripe, because I don't even care about that. It's the fact that whenever there's a static shot of one of their faces, it does this thing to try to make it more lively, I guess, where the eyes move in the shot. And I don't mean as like a shine kind of thing. I mean as a way to portray, I guess, like the eyes just darting, like not just staying stagnant and focused. But it's so jarring at first, and you don't really get used to it because it's so sharp. Like you could tell it's just like one frame, another frame, another frame, boom, boom. Dude, it's like, stop. I get you're trying to try something. If you're gonna try something, just try it in like the first episode and then just stop, because it's so weird. Other than that, that was like my one little gripe about it. Not really too much to cover. Again, it's kind of like that ASMR kind of show where it's just like a lot of people, at least the main 2, are pretty flat toned, but still pretty emotional. It's one that I definitely want to see a season 2 of. So what would I give this on my scale? Easy 7 out of 10. Not anything too crazy, but it definitely left me thinking about stuff, and I liked it. These last 3 definitely were some of my favorites, but I think I'll go with this one. The one in which, by the time I'm recording this, The last episode just came out today, which is honestly why I was waiting a little longer to do this binge cap, just so I was able to cover everything. And that is Tomo-chan is a girl. This one was honestly unexpectedly my favorite of the season. Just consistently overall my favorite. It's a romance story. That's pretty much, I mean, obviously this season's primarily romance, what I'm best at. It's a romance story between these two characters, Tomo and Junichiro. It immediately starts with her confessing to him, and then he snaps back with, "I love you too, man," because this guy does not view this girl as a girl at all, because she's very tomboy, you know, rough, gruff, beating the fuck out of anybody who looks at her wrong. And it's a fun story over the course of at least this first season, just seeing them progressing and her trying to make him look at her more as a girl. And well, definitely I'll say, again, I don't want to spoil anything in these binge caps, but this one, I kind of don't want to see a season 2. I kind of hope that's the end. Honestly, the way this season ends in 13 episodes, feels like you get the whole story. I feel like anything more would be dragging it on. Again, I'll look more into the manga in future, maybe. I always say that, but then I never do. But you know, I would say what absolutely carries this story is its characters, which I mean, in a romance high school type story, you kind of have to. You don't really have any action or anything. I mean, there is some pretty surprisingly good action in this story, just because, you know, these characters like were raised by like martial arts parents, but it's just mainly the two characters of Carol and Misuzu are absolutely just the standout characters and are some of my favorites. It's just because they're both such polar opposites, but yet they bounce off each other and are such good friends in the story. You know, Misuzu's so dark and emo and depressing, and Carol's just so bright and foreign, literally. It's kind of like a weird twist on Love is War now that I'm looking at it. Tomo kind of fills the role of Kaguya, Junichiro's like a not as smart Miyuki, and, you know, Carol's like Chika, Misuzu's like Ishigami, except like, you know, very different like kind of dichotomy and roles that they fill and everything. I did not use that word correctly, shut up. But this one's one that I, again, talked about in the dub video that I'm probably going to revisit in the dub just because of the clips I've seen. It's so funny. Again, it's just mainly Carol and Misuzu's voices. And I definitely just want to rewatch it in general because, like, this is the one that honestly just does not miss a beat. Like, it doesn't drag its feet. It doesn't waste your time. And I absolutely recommend it to anybody who's into not just romance, but, like, anime in general. Like, it's a fun story. And again, I don't know if there is more. There probably is, knowing these manga that somehow go on forever, but if there isn't more, at least for the anime, I feel like that's fine. Like, the way it ends, you got a full arc and story, and overall I would give it, like, there's not much I can really complain about. I don't feel like I can give it a 10 out of 10, not even a 9 out of 10. It feels too good for what it is. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. You know, it didn't make me cry, it didn't make me like emotional or anything. I was just like, you know what, good story, good laughs, good bants. Absolutely recommend it. For this one, we've got ourselves a sequel season. A sequel that I've been waiting so long for, and if you've seen my videos in the past, you know I absolutely loved the first season to pieces, and I'm so glad this second season finally came out. And that is, of course, Don't Toy With Me, Nagatoro-san. Season 2, or Second Attack as it's called. I was so shocked the week that this started airing. Not only did it give us episode 1, it gave us episode 2, I think on the same day, and I was like, wow, anime doing a dual premiere? They have learned from the live action streaming services. But not only that, like the next day or so, it gave us episode 3. It gave us 3 episodes in like a week. I was like, slow down, bro. I of course want to see it, but I want to take my time. But either way, second season Nagatoro. Again, like I've talked about, first season Nagatoro, one of my new favorites of all time. Still is, even after all this time later. And I was very excited going into the second season because I dabbled a bit in the manga, mainly because we had no idea when the second season was coming out. I mean, now here we are later, like almost 2 years after the first season was done. And man, all I have to say is, I don't really like it as much. I mean, it's more of a case of just when I went into the first season, obviously I knew nothing and I was really surprised and I loved it a lot. But of course, going into season 2, I knew what to expect. Story-wise, just because I knew some manga stuff, as well as just like structure-wise, just, you know, coming off of the first season, I knew what to expect. Even still, I was still very excited and I still absolutely loved the second season. I mean, this season had a pretty interesting task of handling a lot more of the romance side of Nagatoro and Senpai, which of course, I loved that. I liked the romance between those two, as well as introducing some new characters like Nagatoro's sister, the cousin of the president and whatnot, Nagatoro's rival. A lot of interesting new plot points and settings. It feels so weird talking about this show in that light. Again, plot. That's why we're here. And I talked about like the OP for season 1, still one of my favorites. And I was like, all right, how are you gonna top season 1's OP? And they did it. I mean, again, recency bias kind of thing, but still, ironically, the 1-2 punch of the first and second OP, like honestly, I think they work hand in hand with each other. Just one of those OPs that I just never skipped. Just hearing that guitar, just so many great moments in this season. And while I didn't enjoy it as much as the first season, I think as a continuation of the story, obviously, it's phenomenal. If you haven't already seen Nagatoro, watch both seasons now. They're both out. And again, probably gonna wait another 2 years until season 3, so... which is fine, IG. But for the second season, I would say, for a score, I would give it an easy 8 out of 10. It had me looking forward every Saturday to a new episode. And I was once again saddened once it ended. Even though it did end in a place where I was just like, that's a really good coming full circle for this season as a story. Now then, in typical fashion for these binge caps, I don't necessarily save my favorite for the end to talk about, but I do like to save the one I found the most, aesthetically pleasing, I guess, or aesthetically surprising. I guess the one that shocked me the most on how much I would enjoy it. And that is, of course, this one. The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. Now, I'm gonna get this part out of the way. I will definitely say the bulk of what had me coming back to this show every week was that goddamn OP that will never leave my brain. Because holy fuck, that OP is so good. Or, well, I should specify. The song is really good. The OP, I don't care about because it's boring. Like, the visuals itself. It's one of those ones where I immediately looked up, like, the full version and just, like, I constantly listened to it on car rides or whatever. It's, like, in my head. My logic for stuff is, like, if it's in my head, I gotta watch it or listen to it again, and that'll get it out of my head. So that was the bulk of the reason why. Because I'm gonna be honest, this show is pretty decent. Like, it's a romance where you can obviously see where it's going, and it does start pretty strong pretty early on, and it doesn't go the way that you initially think it's gonna go. Like, I'm gonna be honest, towards the start of this season, I had watched the show Higehiro, and going into the first episode of this series, I thought it was gonna be sort of in that similar kind of vein, just without, you know, the 10 plus year age gap. And while it kind of is like that in spirit, I guess, in terms of the girl like doing chores and taking care of the guy, it's much more focused on its romance. And I will say it's a very naturally developing romance in that while it does take the entire season for there to be an answer, there were many points throughout the season where it was like, that could have been the moment. That could have been the moment. The way it ends, like, of course, like, I kind of want there to be a season 2 just to see, like, how this relationship will progress. Because the way it ended, honestly, it felt too easy, especially like during this time is when I watched Oregaru, and that one was like a whole thing of like trying to build a relationship in which they're not reliant on each other, at least so desperately, and then coming into this show where they kind of are. It's like, even though this is just kind of a straight up just no fluffing about, just cute story, this seems like one that would kind of be hard to binge altogether, just because I wasn't necessarily bored, but I could definitely see someone being bored. And honestly, again, going back to the OP, it kind of had to be good, because if the OP wasn't that much of a banger, like, I wouldn't give a shit. Like, there were many points throughout these last couple weeks, like watching episodes for this, where I'd spend like 5-10 minutes just on the opening, just rewinding and re-listening to it over and over again, just because it's so upbeat, it's so strong. But then you go into this show and they're so like, again, like, I'm kind of comparing it to other things, which isn't fair, I know, but like, it was a romance that I still gave a shit about and I liked seeing develop, just because, again, it felt like a natural flowing relationship, despite the circumstances in which they met was very much chance. My dude got the ultra UR god roll on that one. And just when it comes to like dealing with, like, of course, like their sad backstories or whatever, it was always dealt with in an episode and then over. Okay, I guess that's going nowhere, because it always ended with them being like, I'm here for you, I got you, hug, or whatever. And it pretty much is that, rinse and repeat for 12 episodes. I shouldn't have saved this one for last now looking at it. Like, I didn't like it as much as I actually thought I did. Like, as I will say, art, like, it was fairly pretty to look at. Animation was not anything special. They did kind of have like the stagnant faces, just like their eyes and whatnot didn't really move that much. I maybe have to like re-stew on this one, maybe read more of the manga. I don't know. Overall, I would give it... OP gives it a lot of points, and that's really hard to count because that's not fair. It's definitely watchable, but I don't think you could maybe watch it all in one sitting because I feel like you would probably get pretty bored. I think I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. Like, that's kind of my average score. Like, it was not bad. I definitely enjoyed it. Was it my favorite this season? Absolutely not. I could definitely see both sides of people watching it and be like, you know what, that was alright. Or someone watching it and be like, that was boring as fuck. He's right, they're both right. Like, I get that. I would still recommend these last few: Tomo-chan, Nagatoro, Bomi Rotten, and Cool Ice Guy. But that is that. This was the Winter 2023 anime binge cap. Not too much crazy stuff that came out. Of course, there was still technically like My Hero Academia and all that, but you know, I reacted to that week to week. I talked about that so much. So overall, most of these shows were pretty alright. I would recommend most of them, and for a lot of the other ones, don't bother. I love doing binge caps, man, because it's just, you know, they're so far and few between. I literally can only do like 3 or 4 a year. But on that, I guess I'll see you all in 12 weeks for the spring 2023 binge cap. I'm sure there's going to be a lot to come, and I can't wait for it. Thank you all for joining me on this. I'm Lancer. Thanks for watching.